learned a grand jury will hear testimony on Monday as part of an ongoing investigation into Tiffany Henyard's leadership in the
launched an investigation into controversial Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Dane Placco has been following allegations of her misspending and joins us now with an update. Dane.
Yeah, we've been reporting for nearly 2 years on allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard in her capacity.
Stop everything you're doing because this just broke. Federal investigators have officially unveiled new evidence in their case against Mayor Tiffany Henyard. And what's inside this report? It's so outrageous, so explosively incriminating, that even her most loyal allies are going silent, according to confidential sources close to the investigation. The feds aren't just coming after her title. They're coming after her entire financial empire, her inner circle, and the web of connections that have protected her for years. We're talking forged documents, laundered campaign funds, and a secret recording that prosecutors are calling the nail in the coffin. And the most shocking part? Allegedly, someone from inside her own team flipped, turning over hours of recorded meetings, DMIs, and emails that connect Henyard to a ring of misused public money, luxury perks, and threats against whistleblowers. This isn't just scandal. This is the beginning of the end for one of the most controversial mayors in America. And trust us, what's about to be revealed next? It's going to flip the entire town of Dalton upside down. Before she became the center of a federal investigation, Tiffany Henyard was being hailed as a trailblazer in 2021. She made headlines by becoming the first Black female mayor of Dalton, Illinois. News outlets praised her for her confidence, her energy, and her promises to clean up local corruption. But beneath the surface of that historic win, a different story was already brewing. According to insiders, red flags started almost immediately. Within months of taking office, Henyard had allegedly begun restructuring key departments, replacing seasoned staff with loyal allies, and allegedly consolidating her control over city finances in ways that bypassed oversight. But because of her rising star status and strong presence in media interviews, no one dared to question her publicly, but behind the scenes, whispers were growing. Former city employees began quietly stepping down, some citing hostile leadership, others claiming retaliation for pushing back against budget proposals. Vendors and local business owners who had previously worked with Dalton City Hall began to notice a shift. Payments delayed, contracts mysteriously canceled, or worse, allegedly reassigned to businesses linked to Henyard's associates. But it wasn't until 2022 that the real warning signs hit. Henyard spearheaded a controversial public safety initiative that reallocated city funds for crime prevention and emergency response. But local reporters digging into budget spreadsheets claimed they couldn't track where millions of those dollars actually went. Meanwhile, Tiffany's personal lifestyle began making waves on social media. A new luxury SUV, designer clothing, lavish out-of-town government retreats with suspiciously vague itineraries. And all of this while Dalton residents complained about deteriorating services, pothole-filled streets, and unpaid city employees. But still, Henyard pushed back. Every time critics questioned her leadership, she called them racist, sexist, or haters trying to tear down a Black woman in power. Her supporters clapped back hard, accusing the media of targeting her unfairly. Yet the complaints kept coming. An anonymous city worker went public in a scathing YouTube video titled "The Truth About Dalton's Mayor: What You're Not Being," told, racking up 2.4 million views before it was mysteriously taken down. And in 2023, the Dalton City Council began clashing openly with Henyard during heated meetings, some of which were broadcast live and went viral for the explosive arguments, with council members accusing the mayor of running a shadow government, blocking audits, controlling votes with fear and intimidation, spending thousands on personal security detail with taxpayer dollars. Still, no criminal charges stuck. Not yet, because the real heat wasn't coming from Dalton. It was coming from Washington. By late 2023, the FBI had allegedly opened a quiet probe into the town's financial discrepancies. IRS agents began snooping through years of campaign filings and vendor transactions. Sources say phone records were subpoenaed, bank accounts flagged, and a federal task force was assigned to monitor the mayor's expenditures. And yet, Henyard smiled through it all. She continued appearing at ribbon cuttings, giving inspirational speeches, even hosting lavish fundraising events that featured high-profile guests from Chicago and beyond. But now, the mask is slipping, because according
fact, interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in charges. Did the FBI agents you talked to seem serious about
Yes, very
your
serious.
concerns?
Very, very serious. Very.
Lawrence Gardner owns a U-Haul rental and trucking business in South Suburban Dalton and says he went to the FBI several months ago.
because according to leaked details from the federal affidavit, this investigation has now entered stage 3, meaning the feds have moved from suspicion to confirmation. And they didn't come empty-handed. One source claims the feds now have over 60 hours of recorded audio between Henyard and confidants, allegedly discussing illegal deals email chains linking city contracts to Shell. Companies owned by relatives, a wire transfer log showing misappropriated emergency relief funds being sent to an account tied to a Caribbean property, and get this, a voice memo allegedly recorded by Henyard herself, bragging about how nobody in this city will stop me unless the feds step in. Guess what? They just did. And what's worse? They may not be coming for Henyard alone. It all came crashing down with a single recording, according to a newly unsealed indictment obtained by investigative journalists. Federal prosecutors now possess audio evidence of Tiffany Henyard discussing city finances, contract manipulation, and a list of enemies she planned to bury before the next election. But here's the jaw-dropper. The recording didn't come from a wiretap. It came from someone inside her own inner circle, a person she trusted, person who stood beside her in public, person who wore her campaign T-shirt. The feds are calling them confidential witness number 2. But inside Dalton, everyone's whispering the same name. Her chief of staff, let's break it down. Confidential. Witness number 2 reportedly walked into the U.S. Attorney's office with a hard drive containing 47 gigabytes of evidence, including secretly recorded phone calls, meeting audio from inside City Hall, screenshots, text threads discussing burner contracts, PDF files of budget documents, altered after city council approval. According to the documents filed, QW2 told investigators, "I started recording her when I realized she wasn't protecting the people, she was protecting herself." And the content of those recordings, devastating. In one audio file, Henyard allegedly says, "Let them vote how they want. I got the budget in my hands. I'll move the numbers later. They don't know what I know." In another, when discussing a whistleblower who threatened to go to the press, she says, "Make her uncomfortable. Make her scared to open her mouth. We don't need that kind of drama right now." And the worst one? A meeting where she allegedly brags about taking consulting fees from a contractor in exchange for exclusive access to the next development project. The word kickback appears 3 times in the transcript. And guess who was in the room during that meeting? CW2. Wearing a mic. But this twist gets darker because right after the indictment went public, reporters began tracing financial connections between Mayor Henyard and a private security company that had been hired under an emergency services loophole, a company that had received over $400,000 in city funds. A company that, as it turns out, was owned by a cousin of Henyard's campaign treasurer. No bids, no public contracts, just fast-tracked invoices labeled confidential.
And I talked to a couple of agents and I explained them what was going on. I gave them all my paperwork to show them what was happening in court and what was happening in Dalton. And they told me they was investigating and they would be in touch with me.
Gardner is one of 6 people who confirmed to Fox 32 that they've been interviewed by the FBI, ranging from Dalton business owners.
Public safety response. And where was this public safety company deployed? Not in crime zones, not in schools, not in emergency drills, They were stationed at fundraisers, private events, and even escorting Henyard on out-of-state trips. Yes, you read that right, taxpayer. Money allegedly spent on a security entourage for vacations. CW2 also provided video footage from one of these trips. In the video, Henyard is seen on a yacht, drinking champagne, surrounded by the same security crew whose wages were billed to the town of Dalton. The invoice labeled it VIP Security Coverage Incident Response. Simulation. This isn't just unethical. This isn't just scandalous. This is criminal. But while the feds were pulling back the curtain, Tiffany was trying to hold it together at a recent press conference. Flanked by 2 remaining staffers, she said, "This is a targeted attack. This is what happens when a strong Black woman dares to take control." She denied all wrongdoing. She called CW2 a coward. She blamed the media for cherry-picking lies. But the courtroom doesn't care about press conferences. And the feds aren't done because inside the affidavit, it's one more chilling line buried in paragraph 147. Further evidence suggests that additional city officials were aware of and potentially complicit in the misuse of public funds and suppression of oversight. Translation: she may not be the only one going down. And you know what that means? More flips are coming, more recordings will drop, and more careers over. But here's the kicker. Just hours after the indictment dropped and the feds revealed CW2's cache of evidence, Tiffany's personal assistant went missing. Police say her phone was found abandoned on the back seat of a parked car behind Dalton City Hall. The assistant hasn't been seen since, and rumors are flying. Did she know something? Did she help cover up paperwork? Was she about to flip to, or worse, was someone trying to keep her quiet? We don't have those answers yet, but what we do know, scandal just jumped from corruption to something darker. And the next reveal may expose the entire town's leadership from top to bottom. As soon as the indictment was unsealed and the public learned that someone inside Tiffany Henyard's own team had flipped, a ripple of fear shot through City Hall. Staffers stopped showing up, phones started going unanswered, and Dalton residents, they were watching. But what the public didn't know till now is that this wasn't the end of the federal investigation. It was the beginning of Phase 4. That's the phase where federal agents stop collecting evidence and start knocking on doors. And according to multiple sources inside the U.S. Attorney's Office, a confidential arrest list has already been drafted. A list of 7 names, all tied to the misappropriation of funds, document tampering, and witness intimidation. Guess whose name is at the top? Mayor Tiffany Henyard. But she may not be around to see those handcuffs, because insiders claim that in the hours following the leak, Tiffany Henyard made a series of suspicious moves that suggest one thing: she might be trying to flee. First, she abruptly canceled all public appearances, including a high-profile interview on a Chicago news station where she was expected to clear the air. Her office cited health concerns. No one's seen her since then. A source from O'Hare International Airport revealed that a woman matching Henyard's description was caught on camera at a private jet terminal, speaking with 2 men believed to be her longtime security detail. No flight manifests were filed. No known destination. But the footage, it's reportedly been handed over to the feds. And finally, a whistleblower from inside Dalton's IT department claimed that Henyard attempted to wipe her city-issued devices remotely just hours before the indictments dropped. That's right. The mayor allegedly tried to digitally erase her trail. But guess what? The FBI already cloned her devices weeks ago, according to leaked info from a cybersecurity team working with the investigation. Not only did Henyard fail to destroy her data, she accidentally revealed new information in the process. Here's what they found: a series of encrypted texts between Henyard and an unnamed political donor, allegedly discussing ways to bury the audit and keep the city quiet until Q4. A PDF labeled Media Strategy Phase 2, which includes talking points, target journalists, and, disturbingly, a list of community members. described as problematic voices with suggestions to neutralize their influence. And most shockingly, an audio memo where Henyard can be heard saying, "They think I'll go down like the rest. I built this. If they want it back, they'll have to take it from me in cuffs." That audio was timestamped 3 days before the feds showed up. But there's more, because while the feds were gathering this intel, someone else was preparing to speak, someone who had been silent this entire time. Dalton's treasurer at a surprise press conference.
Agents are asking questions about Henyard's alleged use of taxpayer dollars and resources, including massive spending on out-of-town trips, hundreds of thousands of dollars in police overtime for her personal security detail, using public employees and tax dollars for personal benefit, and holding up licenses to certain businesses like this Dalton restaurant.
Conference held on the steps of City Hall. She dropped a bomb for over a year. "I've been pressured to approve transfers without documentation. I was told it was above my pay grade. I'm telling you now that pressure came directly from the mayor's office." She handed reporters a flash drive. Inside it, 78 emails from Henyard and her top aides invoicing discrepancies totaling over $2.10 million, and a chain of texts labeled, "Do what you're told or find a new job." The crowd gasped, the media swarmed, and within an hour, the Justice Department issued a rare late-night statement confirming, "We are expanding the scope of our inquiry into Mayor Henyard and her administration. Further updates to come. Translation: more subpoenas, more witnesses, more arrests." But just when the public thought things couldn't possibly get worse, one final twist dropped that left the entire town stunned. Tiffany's re-election committee. Website disappeared. Gone. Domain deactivated. Emails bouncing. Social pages wiped clean. And guess what? Her campaign funds, roughly $488,000, were moved into a private holding company 2 days before the indictment. And the owner of that holding company? Guess! Man based in Panama. Yes, Panama. You can't make this up. The feds are calling this intent to conceal, and they're preparing charges that go far beyond local corruption. We're talking wire fraud money, laundering, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to commit public resource theft, and all of it pointing directly to the mayor's office. The residents of Dalton are furious. A protest is already being planned, not just to demand Henyard's resignation, but to dismantle her entire administration. And the signs at that protest, they're already going viral. She said she'd save us. She sold us out from mayor to menace. Where's our money, Tiffany? But we're not done. Because as all this unfolds, rumors are swirling that a federal raid is imminent. And the location: City Hall. The morning after the arrest, rumors and wiretap audio leaked. Dalton woke up to sirens, cameras, and chaos. Local residents flooded City Hall with signs reading, "Where's the money, Tiffany? You don't speak for us, feds. You're welcome here." What started as a dozen protesters quickly turned into hundreds, lining up outside the same government building that Henyard once used to hold community empowerment breakfasts. Now, that same building was under surveillance with unmarked federal vans reportedly stationed just 2 blocks away, and the vibe on the ground: furious, betrayed, fed up. Local small business owner Darnell Hayes went viral for a fiery on-camera rant. "She used us. She smiled in our faces, promised us streets, schools, safety, and gave herself security guards and steak dinners." I'm done. A retired school principal shared a chilling statement while teachers were fighting for basic supplies. "Our mayor was wiring funds to God knows where. I've been in Dalton 42 years. This is the worst leadership we've ever had." A mother of 3 held up her utility bill and shouted, "I got my water shut off last month while she's on yachts in Miami." The footage was picked up by ABC7, WGN, MSNBC. Henyard went from hometown hero to headline disgrace overnight, but the public rage was only part of the fallout. The political world cracked wide open. City council members who once backed Henyard are now holding emergency press conferences, calling for her immediate resignation and even criminal charges. Alderman Mendez, who previously campaigned beside her, said, "I believed in her. I vouched for her. I now feel sick. If even half of these allegations are true, she doesn't belong in office. She belongs in prison." 3 Dalton board members have now resigned, citing ethical conflict, threats from insiders. And one even said, "I refuse to be a pawn in what I now know was a criminal operation." The Dalton treasurer, already known for exposing the budget discrepancies, has now requested federal protection, claiming, "The threats I've received are serious. I believe they're trying to silence me. I won't be intimidated." The Illinois State Comptroller's Office officially froze a portion of Dalton's funding, pending a federal review of municipal spending. And then perhaps the biggest collapse of all came from Governor J.B. Pritzker's office, which released a stunning statement. "We are deeply disturbed by the growing allegations and evidence presented in the case of Mayor Henyard. The people of Dalton deserve transparency, accountability, and leadership rooted in service, not scandal." She's been abandoned, politically, publicly, completely. And just when it seemed like it couldn't spiral further, the Dalton School Board announced it is considering removing Henyard from any honorary partnerships tied to their youth mentorship programs, citing irreparable damage to community trust. And if that wasn't enough, Chicago's Black Women's Leadership Forum, once a proud supporter, issued a statement of deep regret, saying, "Tiffany Henyard does not reflect the values we uphold. Empowerment without ethics is oppression disguised." Meanwhile, social media turned Henyard's fall into a full-blown spectacle. TikTokers launched a hashtag. #Dalton Downfall fan-made mini documentaries are popping up by the hour, some racking over 5 million views. One trending video shows a side-by-side of Henyard's old campaign ad promising honesty and transparency, followed by footage of the FBI van pulling into Dalton's parking lot. Caption, "Promise made, justice delivered." Even celebrities are chiming in. A local Chicago...
We reached out to the FBI, which said it is policy for the agency not to comment on the nature, existence, or non-existence of any investigation that may be occurring. A public relations firm responded on behalf of the mayor, saying neither Henyard or the village of Dalton have received any subpoenas or been contacted by the FBI or any other law enforcement agency.
Chicago rapper tweeted, "Grew up in Dalton. We got more potholes than promises. Good riddance, Mayor Fraud." A national podcast titled Corrupt Queens has just announced a 3-part episode called Tiffany Henyard, From History Maker to Federal Defendant, premiering this weekend. And yet, through all the rage, media storm, and public collapse, Tiffany has remained silent. No live stream, no tweet, no Facebook video. Nothing. And the silence is louder than ever. But behind the scenes, sources say she's preparing one final press appearance, a Hail Mary attempt to spin the narrative, deny the charges, and blame the system. But it may be too late, because what's coming next? Maybe the final nail in the coffin, just when you thought this couldn't get any darker. Everything shifted, and not in Tiffany Henyard's favor, because while Dalton residents protested, political allies defected, and national news dissected every frame of her downfall, one last move hit the system like a wrecking ball. And it didn't come from the feds, it came from inside. Tiffany's own legal team, an anonymous source leaked to NBC Chicago that one of Henyard's former attorneys, a civil rights litigator, who briefly consulted for her during her mayoral ethics review, had handed over a sealed binder of communications and financial records to the Department of Justice. The contents: screenshots of deleted emails recovered through server backups, memos outlining a plan to intimidate council whistleblowers. And most damning of all, a non-disclosure agreement signed by Henyard and her assistant, labeled for internal use only, travel confidentiality, executive trips, the clause inside. This agreement confirms that any staff or security detail attending private retreats, Donor weekends or destination meetings are prohibited from disclosing participant names, financial exchanges, or video photo media shared during such events. Translation: she was hiding everything, not just from the public, but from her own team. But here's where it gets scary. Inside that same binder was a copy of a wire transfer request form made out to a bank in St. Kitts and Nevis, dated 2 days before the investigation went public, and the amount, $74,000, labeled emergency logistics. Emergency for what? Now rumors are flying that Henyard may have already fled, or is preparing to leave U.S. jurisdiction entirely, leaving her staff, her town, and the people who trusted her to hold the bag. Even more chilling, one Dalton council member, speaking anonymously, said this on a hot mic after an emergency budget hearing. Tiffany's not the only one who's guilty. We all knew pieces of it. Some of us are praying she'll never testifies. Because that's the final cliffhanger here. What happens if Tiffany Henyard flips? What happens if the woman who silenced critics, rewrote budgets, bullied whistleblowers, and possibly drained taxpayer funds into offshore accounts, decides to name names? This isn't just about Dalton anymore. This is about every official, donor, vendor, and political ally who stood beside her. And if even half of them are dirty, then the indictment of Tiffany Henyard is just chapter 1 of a much larger political collapse. What's coming next could shake Illinois to its core. So now we ask you, and we mean this seriously, ... Is Tiffany Henyard about to vanish before justice is served? Or is she preparing to cut a deal and drag half the state down with her? Because after everything you've just seen, the shady contracts, the secret security firms, the offshore accounts, the disappearing campaign funds, and that sealed wire transfer labeled emergency logistics, this isn't just a scandal. This is a civic betrayal on a national level. And you, the people, others, the taxpayers, deserve answers. So tell us in the comments, should Tiffany Henyard be arrested immediately before she flees the country? Do you think her inner circle knew the whole time, or are they just as shocked? And if she does flip and start naming names, how far up do you think this goes? Drop your theories. Tag your city leaders. Sound off on whether every public official in her circle needs to be investigated. Now, this story isn't just about one mayor. This is about how far corruption can go when no one is watching. But guess what? We're watching now. Smash that like if you believe Dalton deserves real leadership. Tap subscribe so you don't miss the next breaking piece, because trust us, this case is far from over. And hit that notification bell, because if an arrest goes down live, you'll hear it here first. You've been watching Hip Hop, and we promise this ain't the last time Tiffany Henyard's name will break the internet. Stay loud, stay locked, stay dangerous.